Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And as we wrap up Disability Pride Month, we wanted to highlight three amazing organizations that are fighting for equal rights and protections for the disabled communities. Again, as I said, there's many organizations out there. I will say, and listeners, this may be an assignment I'm sending to you because we always love your assistance. I don't trust all of these sites because some of them are government backed, and not that I'm trying to put on my conspiracy theory hat or anything, but we also know sometimes it's not in the best interest of the actual communities that they're saying they're advocating for, more so, especially today, just putting a name out there to pretend like they're doing some solutions. So it was kind of a little harder to navigate because all of my searches were overwhelmed by government-backed organizations instead of disabled-led organizations, which is what we want to look for. We want people who are in this community to lead these types of organizations, or people who are at least family members with, they understand the needs. So with all of that, we do have a few, but if you have an organization that you think we really should shout out, please send that to us because we love it. If you have stories or actual experiences with them, please let us know because we do want to highlight those. We want to do things in good faith. And there's a lot of misinformation, we know this, and disinformation when it comes to conversations about disability in itself. So that's the big caveat at the beginning. But with that, we are talking about several different organizations, and we're starting with ADAPT, or the American Disabled for Attendant Program Today. The organization is located in 30 different states. So they have different chapters throughout the U.S. The organization is all about civil disobedience. And I think we need to see more of that in general. Good trouble. And here, in Georgia, we talk about good trouble, John Lewis, and he really made sure we understood what that was. And I feel like this organization does that. Here's a bit of information from their site, adapt.org. They say, many might think it's a tragedy to acquire or be diagnosed with a disability. It isn't. The tragedy is when we are denied our civil rights, our dignity, and our right to choice. This is what fuels our righteous efforts. So we're going to go deeper into this because they have a wonderful statement page, and I'm only taking small excerpts from that because I think they really do a great job in writing out exactly what the point of their organization is, because I know when we talk about civil disobedience, there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of misinformation in that as well. And talk about how protesting is oftentimes demonized as riots. We know. If you know, you know. If you've been with us, if you've seen any of the protests and who is able to be protected and who isn't, and who is arrested and who isn't, we know. So they do a great job in talking about it. So we're going to read a little bit more. So they said, in ADAPT, we strive to promote this energy and this love. Finding the imperfect balance between love and rage is not easy. Making sure that space is accessible for everyone in all sense of the word isn't easy. Challenging ourselves to be so radically inclusive isn't always easy. It takes work to make space for people who we don't yet know, or for the people whose experience we might not yet think of, clearly identifying as disabled. It is, however, necessary. Again, in the information, they speak of pushing beyond tolerance, but being able to fully exist without any caveats or asterisks. And with that, being able to use passion and rage in balance with love. So they really do step into we don't care about just tolerating us, just seeing us as not humanity. And I think it's such a great statement. So they go on in their site. There is room in our movement for abilities and disabilities apparent and hidden of all types. We're unafraid to look in the mirror and reflect on what we need to do better, always, and that our efforts are part of a process of growing, emerging, becoming more just. But that justice requires listening, growing, learning together. In ADAPT, we remember our fallen heroes and honor the ADAPT gods who bring us back home from an action safely and with success so we can do it again in 6 months. In ADAPT, we were pissed off and passionate. We're also conscious of a need to do better always, and that our efforts will not always result in what we strive for, but yet we will always persist towards perfection anyway. So again, I think that's a beautiful way of putting the needs, because they've done things nicely. it's time to evoke more. And we know we've talked about Crip Camp and the history behind all of those protests as well. And then the more recent protests that seem nice, but that doesn't always get attention. And unfortunately, that means they get dismissed. So I love what they're doing. They have a video, and I believe they do have a screening, a documentary of what their works. And they talk about the fact that it might get rowdy. It's kind of how they begin. Like, yeah, no, we're going to cause a disturbance. We want you to see us, and you can't ignore us. And we need you to understand we're not dehuman children. We are adults with rage, but also love. So it's quite beautiful. So go check out Adapt. And yes, there are different chapters throughout the state. So if you wanted to get involved, next, we have Disability Belongs, and this from their website. They say, Disability Belongs is a diverse, disability-led nonprofit that works to create systemic change in how society views and values people with disabilities, and that advances policies and practices that empower people with disabilities to have a better future. Our mission is to drive cultural and policy change to ensure our full representation and influence, creating a more accessible, equitable, and inclusive society. So they have done so much, and they're led by President and CEO of Ariel Sims, who actually had been a CEO, I think the president or CEO of another organization, the ARC, which has a whole history behind that. And so they have been working with them. And for Ariel Sims, they talk about how not only are they a part of the disability community, they're also part of the LGBTQIA plus community. So the intersections and the needs to be able to represent all these different communities is so important for them. And again, they work through different components such as media and entertainment. They do work to bring in true representation and consulting to make sure they're being inclusive, as well as working to educate on a broader level through civic engagement, as well as teaching and allowing for disabled leaders to help bring the necessary changes that need to be made in the workforce. So they have a lot of things happening. But one of the big things were representation and consultation, which I think is really, really important. We've talked about this because we get the same 5 movies recommended to us or same 5 books instead of understanding that there's so many more out there with so much bigger stories to celebrate that aren't often heard or even like considered. So we need more of that representation. And then finally, again, one of the few, we know there's many, 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 many organizations. But we wanted to talk about one organization that actually is focusing on marriage equality because, you know, it's been a major theme for us this year and talking about this even more. I know we talked about it last year, but we're like, yes, we got to focus more and more on this. And that organization is DREDF, or Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund. So they started out in 1979. And here's a bit from their site. Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, founded in 1979, is a leading national civil rights law and policy center directed by individuals with disabilities and parents who have children with disabilities. So again, they're also a multi-level nonprofit that works to change the discriminatory policies and laws and train and educate people with disabilities as well as their families. They work with companies and firms to provide accessible spaces and change procedures in the workplaces and so much more. But the thing that caught our attention is their toolkit, which is, they titled it Advancing Marriage Equality. And in it, they have information about the problems under the conversation about marriage and disability rights and access to funds and assistance. So here's a little bit from their site, dredf.org. As of December 2023, over 8 million Americans rely on federal benefits such as Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, or Disabled Adult Child, DAC, DAC, for their health care and to meet other basic needs. Most are people with disabilities. Unfortunately, unfair and outdated federal laws and policies can strip people of these crucial benefits if they get married. DREDF is working alongside organizations and advocates across the country to protect the freedom of people with disabilities to marry and form families with their chosen partners. So if you go on to their website, dredf.org/marriage-equality-toolkit, they provide this detailed information about what is at risk, all the different policies that need to be changed and are outdated. They see the needs and even how to move forward. They also have an entire section on what we can do to take action, including social media callouts like hashtags, and then contacting members of Congress. And then they even go on a state level about what you should do in your state. So you definitely need to go check out, again, DREDF, DREDF.org/marriage-equality-toolkit. They even have sample letters that you can actually just copy and paste, and they tell you how to do that and then help you to connect with your Congress people in order to get this done. Again, obviously, we are all about action, and we want to be a part of that community that is making change for everyone and understanding that marriage equality means everyone.
Yes. Yes. Well, listeners, as we asked at the top, if you have any experiences with any of these organizations or any organization that you think we should look into and call out, let us know. You can email us at hello@stuffmomnevertoldyou.com. You can also find us on Blue Sky at Mom Stuff Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We're also on YouTube, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.